What's going on, everybody? This is Cody. It's been a long time no see. It's been a little while since I've been on here, but welcome back to another episode of the Yoke podcast, and I hope you guys are doing good. We got someone brand new hanging out here with us. We got Jose, and man, I'm going to let the floor be yours. I know we talked a little bit beforehand with it, but man, just feel like you're talking to the boys, feel like you're just talking with another guy, but I'm going to let you tell your story however way you want to tell it, and we'll go from there.
All right, well, I'm Jose. I grew up around here. I was born in Florida, but I grew up in church. So I grew up Baptist. Everything was fine. Everything was dandy. But growing up in church, it kind of made me feel like I didn't really have a choice. I woke up every morning and my mom was like, yep, we're going to church. And my dad was like, I'm staying home. So I had one parent that was, adamant on going to church, and then one parent who was kind of like, it's his only day off from work. He kind of wants to relax. He doesn't really feel like putting in, the work with church and yada, 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 which he was a hard-working man. I can't really say that I blame him, but I do blame him just a tad. But grew up Baptist, and then eventually, mom fell out of church, and it was just me and my brother and sister going to church for a while. Then my sister fell out of it, and then it was just me and my brother, and that brings us to current today. It's just me and my brother. We, of course, we had the everyday struggles growing up. Dad and mom, they were great whenever we were little, and then other times they weren't. There were times where Dad, he was he liked the occasional beer, the occasional every night beer, and he most of the times it was just kind of he'd come home from a long day of work and he'd sit down and he'd have a beer, and he wouldn't even finish it before he was asleep on the couch. He'd probably leave the stove on, cooking something, and start smoking up the house, and we'd have to, not let the house burn down. But that was one of my dad's flaws. Of course, my mom, she raised us for the most part. It was more so me, my brother, and sister raising each other. But, of course, I had my brother, Francisco. He watched it. He pretty much took care of us, made sure that we didn't do anything stupid. He still does that to this day. I wish he would let it go. I'm 20, but can't really say that I blame him. It wasn't the easiest upbringing. It really wasn't. But I think that even though growing up in church felt like a chore to me, now I feel like I get to make that choice. If I want to come to church on Sunday, I can. It's not like I feel like an obligation to. And whenever it comes to religion, I feel like that's just a big thing. You come to church and you're happy to be here. You don't feel like you're forced to be here. It's like I've got buddies nowadays, and it's kind of like they grew up in church, and some of them didn't, but they're kind of they're asking the what ifs, or they're questioning things, which is all fine and dandy, and I like to answer as many questions as I can, but sometimes they stop me a little bit. They ask a question that I don't have the answer to, and then I'm like, wow, I should probably know that. So then I go and I try and get everything sorted out, and we get to talking about it later on. It's just there's this one buddy. I'm gonna keep his name out of it, but I feel like every day it's just one step at a time. He's just getting closer and closer and closer. And it's like he's on the other end of the string and we're playing tug of war, but I've always been stronger than him. But no, there's a lot that I could talk about, and a lot of things that I could say about my upbringing and all these wonderful things. I switched over to Cornerstone, I don't know how many years ago. It was quite a few though, and I was in the youth group with Jake and Caitlin, and that was all fine and dandy. Jake and Caitlin, they were on top of me. Mm-hmm. They hounded me for just about everything that they could, and that's fine. It kept me on the straight and narrow, which is really what I needed, especially going through the tough times that I was going through. Those of you who are close to me and whatnot, y'all know, especially the church family, y'all know that my dad passed in 23. That was a really rough time for me. That's whenever I started fading away in faith, and I started struggling, and I started asking the what ifs and why God, and I had a little bit of hatred in my heart for the guy, and that I still struggle with this to this day. Sometimes I feel like he's not there, like he's just not listening to me because I can't hear him. I have a couple of religious buddies, and they talk about how, oh, God speaks to me every day. I hear God, and I'm like, I wish he would talk to me. And then I came to this realization of, there's going to be times where it's going to feel like God isn't there. There's going to be times where it's going to feel like I can't hear God, but I know that he's there. I have to have that faith that he is still there listening and, trying to reach out to me and trying to keep me on the straight path. But most importantly, whenever I have no idea and I can't hear God, I have no idea what he's got planned for me. And it's kind of like, do I really want to take the gamble? And I have never taken that gamble and not lost.
Mm-hmm.
He always surprises me in ways that I can't even imagine. There's times where, it hurts and it sucks and it's not what I want to go through. But sometimes it's like those moments that suck and hurt and you don't want to go through is what really brings you closer to him.
Yeah.
Because he brings you out. And that's just one of the things I struggled with for the longest time. Whenever Dad passed, it was kind of like, what do I do now? Dad, he was always, he was the bread maker. He brought home the money. Mom made dinner. Dad made sure we had a roof over our head and clothes on our back and yada, yada, yada. But whenever he, passed, I was like, well, this is awkward. I don't know what to do now. Mm-hmm. So then I felt like Franny, he took a nickname for Francisco, but I feel like Franny, he took initiative and he, tried to step up. And of course, Mom tried to fill that role too. And that's whenever she got into some not so good things. And that's why I don't see her anymore. But that's a different talk for another day. I don't know. There's a lot of things in my life that I struggled with growing up. Religion was one of those things that I grew up in. And it used to feel like a chore. Now it's a choice. And I could sit here and I could debate the Bible, or I could, debate, why I believe in God and why everybody else should believe in God. And I think it's a great thing. It's one of those things that fortunately I was fortunate enough to grow up in it. So I learned early on, what the Bible had to teach me, what everyday lessons it was teaching me. And of course, 4-year-old me walking around wanting candy and cookies out of the jar, he didn't care to understand anything about the Bible. He was just kind of like, okay, well, I'll go to church and then I'll go home and I'll get some ice cream because I went to church. But now it's like all those things that I went through growing up, I realized how I can how I can take what the Bible has told me and, God's word specifically, and how I can implement it into my everyday life. And that's one of the things I struggled with most was, I thought that for the longest time I was like, well, this is a book that was written forever ago. How am I going to be able to implement it into today's world? And every single day, it's like there's just one more thing that just keeps on, it just circles back. I'm like, wow, if we translate that into today's terms, it really fits. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable how much it really fits. But, back to the whole youth group thing, I was one of the older kids in the youth group. Of course, I stayed a little longer, probably till I about finished up with high school. And then there were a bunch of younger kids, underneath me. I always kind of felt like I had to be a role model for them. And I didn't mind it because, well, I know that those kids need somebody to look up to. Mm-hmm. Especially, if they don't have an older sibling, or, if the father isn't in the home. And now I wasn't trying to be the father figure. That was Jake's plan, not my plan. Mm-hmm. But, if I could just try and just encourage them in any way, shape, or form just to keep going down the right path. Now, there's a lot of people, I've got one buddy and specifically, she always asks me, she's like, well, what do I do now? And I can't answer that question as much as I want to, give you the answer of, oh, I think you should do this. You don't want to hear what I have to think because what I think probably isn't right. Mm-hmm. I'm a sinner. I'm human. There's only, whenever the time comes and you're really struggling with something, I feel like it's honestly best if you just turn to God, pray about it. That's something that Jake and Caitlin, hounded me for. It was just pray about it, not just pray about it, but pray specifically about it. And that was one of the things that I struggled with most. I was like, well, I'm praying, but I don't hear the guy. I feel like he's not on the other end of the line. I feel like I'm on hold. Mm-hmm. But I know that in due time, whenever the time is right, those prayers will be answered. Sometimes it's like that, and sometimes it takes a couple months, weeks, years. It's like currently I do the masonry work, and it's tough work, and I always complain about, and I know complaining is a sin, and that is one of the hardest sins that I struggle with. But I always talk about how tired I am after a long day and yada yada yada. But I can also recall a time where once upon a time I was praying for times like these,
Mhm.
praying for days where I'd be able to get up and go to work. So I'm kind of in that season of my life where I'm trying to be more optimistic about everything. You know, it's not that, oh, I have to go to work, it's I get to go to work.
Yeah.
Because there's some people, you know, some people are born, you know, paraplegic, where they can't really, they can't go to work. There's some people that just, there's a lot of things that I can do in my everyday life that a lot of people can't. Just like there's things that I can't do in my everyday life that other people can. Like I've got this funky eye that I can't see out of. And then I look at you and I look at Doug and I'm like, well, I wonder what that's like.
Mm-hmm.
But if I, you know, keep spending life thinking about the what ifs, I'll never realize the what is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel like life is a beautiful gift. Life is one of those things that not everybody is promised. And I really try, and of course, I make mistakes along the way. Everybody does. And I know that by no means am I anywhere near perfect. I understand that, you know, even though I'm gonna mess up, I can always, if Doug or you or Jake or Caitlin or my brother or my sister aren't there at the end of the day, there's always one person that's always gonna be there. And that's God. I mean, there's times where I feel like he's not there, but I know at the end of the day, he never left me.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, it's kind of what I use nowadays is, of course, you know, there's times that I slip up, but nowadays it's, if God was standing right next to me, would I be doing what I'm doing? You know, would I be swearing the way that I swear? Would I be driving the way that I drive? Would I be listening to the music that I'm listening to if God was sitting right there? And that just really hits me with a reality check of, if I wouldn't do it, then I probably shouldn't be doing it. Because realistically, he's sitting right there.
Okay.
And, you know, even though it's not physically there, like I can't physically hear him telling me, hey, you probably shouldn't do that, I know that he's there. And so every time I think about that, it kind of throws me in a reality check of, you know, probably shouldn't be doing this.
A huge statement of like, one thing I want to bring up real quick is like, you mentioned about the eye. You know, the Lord has made each and every one of us in his image and through his love for you. So it don't matter, you know, if you have an eye that's a little bit wearing off, or if you have, you know, quadriplegic, or wherever you're at in life, man, whatever the Lord gave you, man, he loves you and made you in the best way, in the image, love for you. So it's, you know, it's something hard for people who have issues to be able to think about, but really it's one big thing to always like lean back on, like, hey man, you know, I may have this going on for me, but I know the Lord still loves me.
Yeah.
I could have 15 million tattoos on me, but the Lord still loves me. I could have one leg been missing from birth, and guess what? The Lord still loves me with it there. So, man, you know, it does get like a check and say, like, hey, you know, I have maybe a little bit better than others, but I'm going to use as much as I can still with what the Lord's given me to live out his plan.
Yeah.
You know, on my end, like, I never, you know, going back on like how you brought up a church, I never got to. So like I never really got to church until I was in college, and at that time I was still thinking about alcohol and girls, and that was it. So
yeah.
You got a lot like early upbringing, but like that same feel of like, hey, I was like, I didn't really go for me.
Yeah.
I went a whole lot for like, hey, family was taking me, like, hey, I probably should go with my mom right now. I'm probably gonna get my butt whooped when I get home.
Yeah.
When did you know for yourself that you felt the Lord calling you and you gave your life to him? Because like I can say it like on my story with it, like I had a bunch of buddies like, hey man, give your life to the Lord. I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? Here we go. I'm like, oh, well, I didn't really do it for me, I did it for everybody else that was around me.
Yeah.
When do you feel like in your journey that you made that decision for you?
That's like so back to the whole growing up, felt like a chore going to church, yada, yada, yada. It was kind of like, eventually it got to the point where I had this set goal in mind, and it wasn't about, oh, I'm going to go to church this Sunday. Oh, I'm going to learn more about God this Sunday. It was more so of, I wonder how many times I missed church this year.
Mm-hmm.
I want to miss less and less church, and that was my main focus. It wasn't about, oh, what did I learn in church? It was, oh, I went to church.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever it comes to, you know, things like that, it's almost like I wanted to be able to be prideful about the fact that I went to church, you know, 50 out of the 52 weeks in a year.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than, oh, what did I learn out of those 50, out of 52 weeks in a year? And so that's where, you know, pride really got me growing up. I was proud of myself, and I boasted about it because, it was an achievement that I feel like I went to church 50 out of 52 days, or 50 out of 52 weeks in a year, and I was proud of it, but looking back on it, yes, it was a good thing that I went to church, but I really should have taken more out of it. Back to your original question of, when did I, truly give my life to Christ? I really wish that I could say I remember. I know that it was at KOZ, we did a river baptism, and it was one of those kind of moments where it's like every care that you currently had on your shoulders kind of floated away. You stepped in the water, you knew that you were in the presence of, fellow brothers and sisters in Christ, and it was kind of like, it was such a warming feeling. And I had been baptized plenty of times before that, but it was kind of like, oh, I'm doing it to impress everybody else. Yeah. Oh, I'm doing it to create this image for myself. But that day, whenever I was doing it, I was wearing an orange t-shirt. I remember that orange t-shirt. I tried to find that orange t-shirt, but I remember back on that day, I wasn't doing it for anybody else. I wasn't doing it to, be able to be boastful and prideful about it, but I was doing it because I was ready to give my life to Christ. It was one of the toughest things for me to do, and it's like currently, right now, I struggle with being evangelistic. I want more people to know about God, but I want other people to tell them about God. And then them ask me about it. I don't want to have to be the one to bring it up to them. And religion is always, I'm a proud follower of Christ, but I don't want to be the first one to bring it up in a room. So that's what really, because I fear judgment from other people. I really do. But that day down at the river bottom, it was just kind of, I stepped in that water and it felt, like I was just completely, it's like the Holy Spirit was just completely around me. It was just, there was a single care, thought, or worry in the world. And then as soon as I got dunked in that water and I got brought back up, it was just kind of like, wow, I felt like I was opening my eyes again for the first time. And I've been chasing that feeling ever since. I really have. Because, ever since then, of course, my faith has strayed, my faith has come back, my faith has strayed, my faith has come back. And right now I'm kind of in that coming back season. It's strayed a little bit, and I'm trying to slowly work my way back in. But I know that sometimes I fear what God thinks about me, and I fear that he doesn't care, that he doesn't love me, and yada, 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 but I know that he does. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, at the end of the day that your mom's still going to, call you her son because you're her son, but, you feel like she may just be a little upset, but at the end of the day, you know that she loves you. Okay. And, she may, yell at you and scream at you and be upset with you, but she's doing it because she loves you. I'm not saying God's going to yell at you and scream at you. He might. He just might. But it's only because he loves you. Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about this before we got on the podcast too. The Lord's always there. Yeah. Now, I wish I would have been able to find, sent the group a little Facebook video a while back of an evangelist, but it said he kind of acted out what you're saying of I have questions, I have doubts, I have fears, I pray, but there's not an answer. Yeah. And then it's it flashes off, and the guy pretends to be the natural, normal human, because everything you're saying is a normal response in someone's life. It doesn't matter if you're at the beginning of your walk or later in your years and you're getting ready to go home. There's okay to have those sense of questions with it, because that's just our human nature. Yeah. Our nature is hey, if I could see it, I could feel it, I could hear it, I know it's true. Man, that is, one big thing about this is hey, I have to trust in the Lord that you are there all the time. And go back to that Facebook video, if it flashes off into the guy who's pretending to be God and he's crying. He's brother, I have been here the whole time. It's all I want to do is just hear you talk to me. Yeah. It's and that's one of the biggest things that I can say I've had challenges with, and I've talked to other people about it. It's hey, man, I have an issue. I'm praying over it. Hey, Lord, can you fix it 20 seconds ago? It's that doesn't really usually work. But, that biggest thing is that lean on faith through it all, through all the emotions, the fear, the sadness, the good, the bad, and the uglies, and say, like, Lord, I know you're there. And I know your arms are outstretched for me regardless of what I do because you still love me.
Yeah.
And it may not be that answer right now. It may not be an answer a week from now. The Lord may make you go through this challenging time for a purpose. So, like, there's nothing wrong about those. But one of the biggest things to say, man, is, like, keep praying. Keep reaching out to the Lord. Keep with an accountability group through those things because, man, like, when you're struggling with those things, this is where, like Doug and I, Caitlin, Jake, Brian, I mean, everybody in the church, not just Cornerstone, but, like, man, we want to be here during those times, and you're having those questions. Like, don't hesitate to be like, hey, guys, like, I did this. I'm not too proud of it. Like, vulnerable as much as you want to be. And, like, am I doing okay? Am I in the right place, or am I kind of falling off? Because, you know, if you're falling off in left field, we'll let you know.
Yeah.
But also, we've all done it. I'll say I've been through a lot of the similarity of things with it, and there's nothing wrong. A lot of us have went through similar things, and we're going to. We're sinners. We're going to keep repeating it. But, man, the Lord's still there. The Lord doesn't hate you at all with it. You know, we're sinners. We do know how the Lord looks at sin. But, as we mentioned before, we also know that he still loves us, and he gave his one and only son to die for us so that we could still keep that relationship with him.
Yeah.
So, like, man, there's nothing wrong about that. Keep leaning on the Lord. Keep leaning on your men that you have in your life, your family. Find groups of guys to be able to keep in that side. Like, hey, you know, if it's one or if it's 50 of them, like, hey, man, I have a problem right now, and I need someone to pray over with me. Because, man, we'll have a bunch of us, we can be on a phone call, we can meet you here, we can meet you down the mountain. I don't care where you're at. If you're on the job masonry, I'll come on down there if I can, put a hand on you and pray over with it. Because, man, like, this is a long journey. So, like, man, everything you're saying is things we see a lot with it. But, man, it's part of the journey with it. It's part of reading the Bible, and just keep leaning on it, because you can find all those scenarios you're talking about in the Bible. And you've done that. You've been like, okay, hey, I'm struggling with this. All right, let's start reading. Oh, man.
This guy had it way worse than I did.
And then you get those scenarios, you can get like, okay, hey, the Lord, you know, is still with him on there. So, like, man, there's nothing wrong about those things at all. But, man, just know you're loved. And you're loved by many. And the biggest person in there that still has his arms open, it doesn't matter if he's going to answer you now or answer you 50 years from now. But the biggest thing about it is going to be that, like, still lean on him. Know that he's there with you. He's never going to give away and forsake you with it all. Biggest thing is, like, I've seen with you in, like, the church. Man, I saw a picture of you in the KOZ little book that Gary has. And it's just tiny little Jose, and I'm like, man, who is that? And he said, you don't know who that is? I'm like, no, not at all. And I think it may be in that orange t-shirt that you're talking about with it, but, you know, there's a picture of it. But
I had a little tube around me, didn't I?
Yeah, you may have. But, man, the Lord's calling you more to things than I think that you're going to see over time for you. Man, your ability to get up and pray is phenomenal. I mean, your calling may be different. And we talk about spiritual gifts. Mm-hmm. Lord, the Holy Spirit gives you those gifts with it. It may not be that first person evangelism that you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, man, the one big thing you have is if you need someone to pray, like if someone needs to pray over anything, I'm calling you. If you're in that room, you know how to be able to just say, Lord, give me these words to be able to fill out what I need to say. And, man, you fill the whole entire room with the Spirit in there with it. I've seen it out and around, just not out of the sanctuary, but I've seen you get up there and talk about doing that and praying over the whole church with it. So, man, the Lord's going to test you. And he's going to put you in positions where you may not feel comfortable in that. So it may be like, hey, okay, I may be that evangelist. You may not be no Billy Graham.
Yeah.
You may not be a preacher, but, man, he's going to push you in some scenarios like, okay, hey, you may not like this. We're going to make you try it anyway.
Yeah.
Now, guess what? Hey, when you did it this week, you're probably going to do it next week. And then as you get practice, like, hey, Lord, I'm going to lean on you. I'm going to trust you. All right, hey, I learned some things that kind of sucked. I probably shouldn't say that next time. All right, hey, we get better and better with this. And, man, let him challenge you. Let him be able to grow you, because you have such a beautiful world ahead of you through the lens of what you're leaning on. Is just saying, okay, hey, I still need to lean on him. Keep that.
Yeah.
Have that trust in him, Lon. As we're kind of getting a little bit of wrap around, we could keep going on conversations with this, and I want to lead out with a question for you, for that person who may be in that questioning phase. And may be like, okay, I kind of know who the Lord is. I don't really know if I want to dive into this full force. Or maybe like that new believer who's like, yeah, I'm gung-ho for Christ. And I'm like, oh man, the real world's about to smack me in the face.
Yeah.
What's your big thing that you want those people to be able to know through your lens, through your journey, to like let them know, like, hey, this is something I just want you guys to know.
Yeah, so life was kind of all carefree and, worry-free, and it was what it was, but the minute I gave my life to Christ, it was kind of like everything was still fine. Life went on as it was, but your life will get harder. You will be challenged in ways like you mentioned. There's going to be ways or things that God's going to call you to do, and you're going to be uncomfortable with it, but you're going to be challenged in those ways. And I think it's mainly because Satan doesn't want something that he already has. If you can fully give yourself to Christ, then he wants you.
Mm-hmm.
Then he's going to try his absolute best to get you. So that's what I mean whenever I say that your life is going to get more difficult. And that's where you have to, like you mentioned, you have to just continue to lean on him. You have to continue to trust him and continue to put your faith in him, because the minute you slip up, the minute you give, Satan just a little peek at the door, he's going to try and get in.
Mm-hmm.
And, I wish I could say that it is the best decision you will ever make. Giving your life to Christ is the best decision that you will ever make, but it's not going to be easy.
Mm-hmm.
Not now, and probably not ever. Eventually, whenever, our time comes and Judgment Day comes, and, we all go to be up in paradise with him, then it will be easy. But for the life that we live down on this earth, it's not going to, there's going to be times where you're going to have your highs and you're going to have your lows, but something tells me you're going to have quite a few more lows than you will highs. But as long as you stay strong in your faith, you will come out on the other side.
Man, I love it. It's a big thing that people need to be able to hear, and man, it's an awesome time having you. Get to hang out here with that. Man, if I can get you on here a little bit more, I know there's some things, like big things of like our conversation, like that vulnerability that you talked about. Probably after this episode ends, we're probably still going to be hanging out here for a little bit longer, because there's a lot of big things I want to talk to you about. And man, it may be something that maybe jump you on this podcast and like, hey, let's talk, let's have that vulnerable conversation.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee there's a lot of people who are saying the same thing on here, who are watching it or may watch it 15 years from now. Like, hey man, let's have another follow-up podcast, see how you're doing after we kind of talk about some things, and look at it from like a couple different perspectives and continue to lean on the Lord. But man, I'm happy to have you here. It's been a pleasure to see you grow up in the church. I've only gotten to know you for, I think, like 3 years now. So like I've gotten to see you like part of the way through your journey, but there is such a confidence in you now to be able to sit here like, hey, I can sit here and lean on this, and I can talk about the Lord. I may just have to have someone put it in first, but like as soon as someone brings up like, hey, okay, hold on, I'm going to jump on that conversation.
I know a thing or two about this.
So man, you have a really unique journey coming for you ahead. It may not be something now, but man, just keep putting your faith in the Lord, and when he tests you, say, all right, here, there's only one old, you go in the Old Testament, there's only one person who said this. Here I am. You can say here I am a lot, but there's here I am, send me. The Lord challenged you to say that. Mm-hmm. Say here, like, all right, Lord, I know this, and I know you've want me to do this like 15 other times, but all right, hey, I'm going to sit here and say, okay, I'm going to do this because I know you're with me and you're going to guide me through. Yeah. It may not be giving you an entire book of the Bible you can speak and say every word. It may not be that get that one person, that one sheep we're looking for to come home with it. It may be just talking with your buddy who you've been going off with a couple of, months, years, wherever it is, and be like, hey, that may be your calling right now, is find that one person, talk with them, and get that person to be closer to Christ. It could be one day, 15 years from now, you may be back down in Florida and find that you're preaching. Who knows with it, man? None of us know. That's the Lord's plan. He has your whole life planned out with it. So, man, I'm really excited to see where it is, but, man, just keep lifting him up. Keep putting his name, and everything that you do, glorify through him, because we can live in this world and say like, hey, I'm going to do it for me. we've talked about the gym before. Man, there's a lot of times I go in that gym and I'm like, yeah, let's just go and put this. That's for me. And I'm like, man, ever since I put the change of saying, I'm not in the gym for myself anymore.
I'm doing it to glorify.
I'm doing it to glorify the Lord, and you know, that has changed up how I look at it. And that's how things go in, and like, now I'm looking at it, and I'm actually even talking about the Lord with people at the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, like people are looking at you like, man, are you crazy right now about talking about this? Like, man, let's talk about it because, hey, you're right here. Like, you're not going anywhere. I know you still have a half an hour workout. We're going to talk about it.
Exactly.
But man, just lean on him. But anything else in particular you want to finish off with or include on like I know we mentioned a little bit like a Bible verse. I don't know if you have like a Bible verse that like you just lean on all the time.
I've got a couple in mind, but one that really just will always stick out to me is Proverbs 4:23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it.
All right, man.
Cool. I really like that one.
Cool, man. It's been a pleasure. Thank you guys for kind of hanging out and listening to us, but make sure to, if you guys can, like the video, share the video. Man, the more we can get that video shared around for Jose's, for everybody's, man, we're reaching out to more people. We have the Facebook page. We're on YouTube with it. Follow whatever way you want to be able to get the social media. If you got questions, comments, man, put them on there. Put it on the Facebook page. Put it on YouTube. There's always someone who's going to be there who can give an answer on the Facebook page. So feel like anytime you want to get out to us. But man, if you guys have questions for Jose, put them on there. I like to have him be able to answer them now since he said, hey, I got that first part of it out. Let's see what he says now. So, all right, thank you guys. Have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you around.